pumping people up. She's a former NFL cheerleader and is regularly seen on television, including ABC, CBS, and Nickelodeon. She once lived in a canoe in the Florida Everglades for 13 days and more recently competed in the world's longest non-stop river race, kayaking 340 miles in under 85 hours. After graduating from college with a BA in Political Science and Communications, she set her sights on helping individuals and teams be the best they can be through exceptional leadership, excellent team chemistry, and developing the rally mentality. She has worked with global audiences ranging from 50 to 5,000. Brands from all over the world have trusted her, including Tesla, Rubbermaid, Garmin, Fidelity Investments, and more. Helping us put a little pep in our step today, please join me in welcoming from Dallas, Texas, keynote speaker, millennial, and proud cat mom, Shannon McKain.
I want to start by asking a question. Who in this room has a memorable moment that they remember from years ago? In their background, in their past, it could have been when you were a child, it could have been when you were a teenager, it could have been from yesterday, if any of y'all made some questionable decisions last night, you're still thinking about that. But who in this room has a memorable moment that still sticks with them to this day? Anybody? Anybody? Yes, we all do, right? It's kind of like, the lyrics to like our favorite song, right? We just can't get it out of our head. For me, that's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Does anybody remember that? Now, this is a story about what that hat my life got flipped upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there, and tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel-Air. When I think about memorable moments in my life, it takes me all the way back to 1991. I know you're not supposed to share your age, but I'm about to. I was entering the 4th grade in 1991. Now this was a memorable moment for me because my family had just moved for the first time in my life, which subsequently meant that I was now starting in a new elementary school. Now for those of you that truly understand the meaning behind that, for a 10-year-old going on 26, this was life-changing. If I was going to one day grow up and be an Olympic gold medalist, a mega pop star, and eventually marry Prince Harry, it's still on the table, but if things don't work out with Meghan, it all hinged on whether or not Rebecca in Mrs. Coleman's 4th grade class was going to like me, right? It changes everything when you have to move from one school to another. So, I strategized like any good 10-year-old would do. I put on my best outfit, and I best believe had the best backpack with my name embroidered on the back, and I put together an entire game plan as to how Rebecca was going to make sure that I was going to be part of the cool kids in the class. However, what ended up happening next was a complete and utter plot twist that I can't even make up. You see, after a few weeks of being in Mrs. Coleman's 4th grade class, one day we had a visitor who came to our classroom. She had one job and one job only. She was there to recruit members from the class to join a youth leadership organization in the community. Now, her organization shall remain nameless. However, you might be able to make some assumptions. There were some cookies involved. And Rebecca, Tinsley, and Sarah were all members of this organization, so best believe I added this to part of my strategy as to how I was going to be part of the cool kids in the classroom. This visitor that came into the room to tell us about this organization, she was dressed beautifully. She had these incredible brochures and pamphlets, so I was tasked with taking that home to my mom and dad and having them sign on the dotted line. That Monday night, I rolled into the supper table. Remember back when we all used to actually have meals together in our homes? Remember back when we weren't distracted with 10 different devices and there was just the one rotary phone on the wall with the really long cord? Because your mama still had to answer the phone while she was cooking, right? if you are going to be involved in anything, you're going to be involved in 4-H. Can I get a show of hands in the room? How many of y'all know what 4-H is? Hey, okay. Well, so you heard that I now reside in Dallas. However, I grew up in a city called Kansas City, Missouri. I had never heard the word 4-H before in my entire life. And I don't know how my sweet mama did it, but she found the one local 4-H club in the middle of our city. If you are not familiar with 4-H, historically it is known as a very rural and agricultural-based association. You might associate it with things like cows and pigs or land, showing those animals at the county fair. But spoiler alert, growing up in city 4-H, not normal 4-H, I didn't have cows or pigs or land. In city 4-H, I showed my cat at the county fair. That's a thing. Montana was like, you can get out of our state right now. National 4-H likes to use me to this day as their poster child for city 4-H'er turned out okay. But you know, thanks to my sweet, sweet mama, I'm so lucky because I feel like I have been breaking barriers since the 4th grade. If you think about the idea and the concept of showing a cat, a domestic short-hair indoor cat, at a county fair, most people would not believe you, right? You think about trying to convince a cat to get into a carrier, get into the car, travel down the road, and then come out of that carrier and sit pretty so that you can win the blue ribbon. People would never believe you, right? But when we think about the world that we live in today, and as adults, I oftentimes wonder, where did we lose that sense of creativity, to be fearless, to have courage, to truly think outside of the box, to be able to get outcomes that we want for our lives, that maybe perhaps we're not getting today? So often in life, I feel like we're married to these ideas that like we have to sit in these same norms or these same expectations, that in order to climb the corporate ladder that we've got to do X, Y, and Z, and our LinkedIn profiles have to be so pretty and perfect, or that perhaps that we have to fit into the right networking groups, or that we have to be friends with Rebecca in the 4th grade. But what happened? Where along the way did we lose the opportunity to say anything is truly possible, even living on a canoe for 13 days? So that's where the rally mentality mindset comes in. When I think about all of the courageous opportunities and advancements that we have made in our world and in our everyday lives, it all comes from these 5 key things that I think that if we really truly adopted them into our lives day in and day out, then maybe, just maybe, we can continue to push past barriers and limitations. When we think about this idea of rally mentality, the first step of this is to truly get real with ourselves. Get real. Just who are we? Where did I come from? Where do you want to go? What do you bring to the table? There's a story about a fella in 1977 from Rockbridge, Illinois, who decided that his major dream in life was to be a major Hollywood movie star. And the story goes that he packed up all his belongings in the back of his pickup truck and he headed out west to achieve just that. But as we all know, breaking into Hollywood is one of the hardest career paths in the world, right? There's a lot of no's, there's a lot of doors slammed in your face, there's a lot of competition, right? So after weeks and weeks of trying to pick up auditions and trying to get his foot in the door and trying to achieve that dream for himself, first of all, he was running out of money. Second of all, he's like, well, I've got to do something else, right? And the only other thing that he knew how to do, coming from the middle of Illinois, growing up in the 70s, was carpentry. And so he started to apply for different carpentry jobs on different major Hollywood movie sets until he landed one in particular, to where he was going to be engaged for quite some time in this particular project. And it was fabulous for him because he had a little bit of income coming in, he was able to be grounded a little bit while he was still chasing his dream. Until one particular day, when the director was still trying to cast for several of the roles for this particular movie, and somebody didn't show up to read her part. When he looks around and he sees this fella in the background holding out more of the set, and he says, "Yo, homie," probably not that, but something like that, "Hey, will you come and just stand in and read a couple of lines so we can keep casting for these other roles?" And before anybody knew it, Harrison Ford was being cast in this breakout role of Han Solo that literally changed the trajectory of his life. Some people might argue to say, right place, right time, but I'd like to argue to say that he was brilliant to really be strategic about everything that he brings to the table and thought outside the box about how he could differentiate himself just enough to truly get his dreams. When we think about getting real with ourselves, I know this might sound a little bit elementary, but hear me out on this. When is the last time that you truly checked in with your gut about where you want to go with your life, about what you want? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself? And are you really achieving what you thought you were going to achieve by where you're at right now? And sometimes those goals change and they shift, right? Like things that happen in our lives from time to time. And sometimes we've got to reassess where we're spending our time. And do we truly see all of the buckets and categories of our lives equally? Or do we see them different with different proportions in each category? When we think about the idea of getting real with ourselves, it really is talking about knowing ourselves, what we bring to the table, what we want to leverage, what we need to work on, and again, where we want to go with all of that. You heard a lot of really cool things about my background and my bio, and Lori, thank you again for reading all of that, but I humbly want to say that none of that happened because I was given opportunities. The reality of my life story was that I didn't grow up with a lot of privilege. My father worked 2 jobs, literally, just to put food on the table. I was put in 4-H primarily because it was cheaper than that other organization. So when I thought about who I was and what I wanted out of my life, that was working from my own 2 feet, nothing else. So when I decided that I wanted to try out for the NFL, I had to get very real with myself. Let's be honest, Shannon, do you truly have what it takes to be an NFL cheerleader? You didn't grow up in ballet classes with those other people from the age of 3. You don't even know a single thing about what it takes to compete at that level. And so I literally did a SWOT analysis on myself to say, okay, how can I be as strategic as I possibly can in order to truly make my dream? Okay, strengths, awesome. What are my strengths? I have no fear getting up in front of 80,000 people. Awesome, cool, check, put that on the list. What's my weakness? Kind of need to know how to do a double turn. You want to try out for the NFL, right? Okay, cool, put that on the list. What's my opportunity? Well, I pretty much knew growing up in the 80s in the Midwest that I was never going to be a backup dancer for Janet Jackson in LA, and I was probably never going to be a Broadway ballerina in New York. And so what was my opportunity? My opportunity was that I had a football team in my backyard. And what was my threat? My threat was that there were 300 other people who looked, talked, and acted just like me, vying for those same 30 spots. How many of y'all have ever felt that way? That the competition is stiff. There might be 100 of yous in your town vying for the same clients, right? Or maybe perhaps you want something else in terms of a promotion or a pay raise, or you want to go somewhere else with your career, but yet you feel like you are up against a wall. When we think about the idea of a SWOT analysis, it truly is a really strategic way to get real with who you are, what you bring to the table, and then let's figure out how to leverage and maximize all of that. We're not going to worry about any of those weaknesses. Spoiler alert, I did have to take dance classes with some middle schoolers. That's fine. But when we think about this idea of who we are and what we bring to the table, there's one more key component to this. When you think about your vision, your values, your traits, your features, everything that makes you unique and different than anybody else in the world, but does it also align with how everyone else sees you? We have to truly get real with ourselves, who we are, where we came from, and what we want to have happen for us tomorrow. The next step of the rally mentality is it's not just enough to be like, cool, okay, I got a little pep in my step, let's go try out for the NFL. You have to actually take action, right? How many people have ever been fearful of taking that next step? Let me tell you, taking dance classes with middle schoolers when you are 22 years old is very fearful, fearful of fear. That was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, honestly. But when we think about the idea of taking action, we have to be willing to take that next step. How many in the room have that one friend in their friend group that spams the group text thread 497 times in every day? And if you're not raising your hand, then it might be you. But you know what I'm talking about, right? We talk about these text threads and these text chains, or maybe perhaps it's something on social media where you're in a group thread and you're like, oh my gosh, I put my phone down for 5 minutes to go to the bathroom and you missed those 497 messages, right? Yes, we've all been there. Well, that friend for me was Paula. Paula was the instigator of everything. She was always plotting for what was our next move, how are we going to travel somewhere next, what were we going to get ourselves into, and what shenanigans this coming weekend. And then this one particular day, just a couple of years ago, I did that, I put my phone down, I came back, and I had missed all of the messages, and I went, oh my goodness, Paula was serious. She had found the deal of a lifetime to go to Barcelona for the weekend. And I'm like, okay, hold on, let's sit down, homegirl. Are we really gonna go to Barcelona for a random weekend in just a few weeks? But I started to really comb through all of the information, and then sure enough, it was accurate. She had found the best deals for flights to Barcelona. She found the best hotel situation, and this was going to be truly an affordable trip. Am I going to Barcelona on a budget? Are you going to Barcelona on a budget? Heck yeah, you are. Not ma'am, but we sure are. And so away we went. We packed all of our things up, and we went off to Barcelona. Now there were 3 of us that we specifically took off a long Friday and a long Monday to decide to do this. But when I think about the idea of taking action and making a move like this, I made one major mistake. Has anybody ever been to Barcelona, Spain before? What I didn't realize was that Barcelona was full of this incredible architecture, all of this history, and the most beautiful cobblestone streets you've ever seen in your life. What I didn't realize was that me, who I am so proud to live in my 4-inch heels day in and day out, does not work with cobblestone streets throughout the entire city of Barcelona, Spain. You know what I'm talking about here. That moment when you have worn the wrong shoes at an event. Maybe it was here at this hotel in Vegas. Maybe it was perhaps wearing flip-flops in Disney World. Maybe perhaps. Who knows? By the first day, my feet were just having a fit. And I told my 2 girlfriends, I said, look, I don't care what mode of transportation comes next, but we are going to take that back to the hotel because I've got to figure something out. I don't care if I need to buy a pair of tennis shoes because I don't know a pair of tennis shoes. I've got to buy something to figure this out. When you're thinking about different modes of transportation, what do you think of? You're thinking of an Uber, you're thinking of a Lyft, you're thinking of the subway system, maybe a bus, I don't know. But it was almost as if this magical moment was about to take place because we're walking down the street very carefully, I was at least, and we all turn to our right, and here comes Alejandro. Alejandro was a rickshaw driver. If you know anything about rickshaws, you know that they do not move very fast, and speed was very important in that moment, and they're not the cheapest modes of transportation. I was like, oh, I'm going to take a hit in my pocketbook for that one. And Alejandro wanted to talk. Begrudgingly, we got in the back of Alejandro's rickshaw, and away we went. Alejandro wanted to know everything about us. Where were we from? Why were we there? He was horrified that we were only there for a long weekend because Europeans do not take long weekends. They take no less than 6 weeks at a time, am I right? And then the conversation shifted. Alejandro started telling us about himself. He was a sophomore there at the University of Barcelona. He loved being a rickshaw driver for so many reasons. He loved the opportunity to get to meet people from all around the world. He loved the opportunity to get paid to work out. Who doesn't like to double dip? And he loved the opportunity to get to tell people everything that he loved about his hometown. And then the conversation shifted yet again. Alejandro started to tell us about this grandiose business plan that he had. He had figured out that if he got up an hour earlier every single day for the rest of that semester, that by the end of the semester, he would work 1 more hour each day, he would save up that much more money, and that by the end of the semester, he would have enough money to start his own business, buy his own rickshaws, hire his own people, and pay off his education that much faster. Y'all, in that moment, Alejandro schooled the motivational speaker in what it meant to have intrinsic motivation. Alejandro didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a rickshaw driver for my career. But what he did do was that he got super real with himself. He understood who he was, what he brought to the table, what his passions were, what he was good at, and then he leveraged all of that and took action in the best strategic possible way to achieve his goals that much faster. When's the last time that we've been willing to actually get just a little uncomfortable to really, truly achieve our dreams? Whatever that means for you, picture yourself as Alejandro. Then maybe, just maybe, you're willing to get out of your comfort zone just a little bit and drive the rickshaw so that you can achieve your ultimate goals. The next part of the rally mentality is this idea that we are willing to be lifelong learners. Now, this is the part where I just want to get a little bit creative here and see if I can get some participants in the audience to help me out with something. When we think about the idea of being a lifelong learner, we think about this idea of mentality. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Has anybody said to themselves in the last couple of years when TikTok hit the scene, I cannot learn another social media platform? Anybody? Anybody? Yes, absolutely. Like you get to a point in your life where you're like, I can't physically put anything more into my brain, right? You're like, I am maxed out. I have done too many things. So I want to just see, can I get a show of hands? Can anybody help me out with something really quick? Come up on stage. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody help me out with something? Just to prove my point about being lifelong learners. Would you come on up? Actually, all three. Would you all three come on up? then on a couple of other TV shows, and now she's married with 2 beautiful children and has an incredible career. And then last but not least, one of the coolest things about getting to cheer for the world champion, Kansas City Chiefs, is that, fun fact, first of all, of the 32 teams that are in the NFL, not all of them have cheerleaders, and then of the ones that do have cheerleaders, only a few get the opportunity to take the field without anything else going on around them. And we received 3 full minutes to showcase to the world our greatest passion. When I think about the idea of being willing to be lifelong learners, sometimes we have to get a little outside of our comfort zone. So today, OWA, I'd like to see if these 3 fellas have what it takes to be an NFL cheerleader. Was beyond anything else I've done. In fact, people don't realize this, but we get hired for a year contract. You typically get hired in February or March, you sign your employment contract, and then you go for the entire year. So we kind of break it up into 2 different parts. We do it as preseason and then during the season. In preseason, we're getting ready for season, right? And then once season comes around, you best believe that you are giving all out, 110%, the second that you take that stage. So, fellas, let's see. We got what it takes. Let's go ahead and spread out just a little bit. If we move down to the right, just a little bit, I'd like everybody to be able to see you as well. Yeah? So first and foremost, the second that we take that stage, you have to remember that all eyes are on you. No, there's not a football game going on. They are here to see you, okay? So you are so proud. You've got a set of pom-poms in your hands. You're going to have your chins up because your audience is all the way up in the stand. Chins up, chins up. Pom-poms, you're going to shake your pom-poms. No, not your lips, just your pom-poms. Chins up, big curly white smiles, yes. And then last but not least, when you take your position on the field, you're going to put all of your weight on your pom-poms. You're going to put all of your weight on your left foot, and you're going to give me a nice little toe pop with your right. You're going to step out on the left, and you're going to lean on into that hip on to the left. All right, last but not least, I'd like to see if they have what it takes to do a 3-step turn. So we're going to put, no, pom-poms. You're going to put all your weight back on your left foot. We're going to do a little toe pop. Fantastic. Then you're going to put your weight on the right again. You're going to turn around to the left. Close enough. Turn back around to the right. And lean on into that hip. Last thing. You're almost done. We would like to ask all of you if you would join us in this next part. If everyone will go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and stand up. As part of being willing to be a lifelong learner, sometimes we are going to be pushed past our comfort times we were going to be willing or going to be asked to do things that we were not expected to do. So this next part, I'm asking for all of you to really lean into something, even if you are at your most uncomfortable, to give it 110%. You're going to start by just throwing your arms up in the air, and you're going to do what I call a little flick of the wrist, flick of the wrist, flick of the wrist, flick of the wrist. Fantastic. You're going to put your hands on your hips and do a little flick of the hip, flick of the hip, flick of the hip, flick of the hip. And last but not least, your team just made a touchdown. You're going to throw your pom-poms up in the air. You're going to shake those pom-poms. Fantastic. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. When you think about the idea of being willing to be a lifelong learner, I mentioned it a second ago that we are always going to be put in situations that maybe perhaps we don't want to learn and grow in. We think about the idea of playing nice in our respective communities and our offices. How many times have we been placed in a committee or on a situation with somebody that doesn't look, talk, and act like us? And they be completely different, but yet we still have to play nice with them, right? Has anybody ever taken a personality assessment in the room? Couple of y'all? Yes, absolutely. If you think about the idea of the 4 colors personality assessment, that we would just say that we are 4 different types of personalities. That some people are really a big personality, they don't really get into the details, and they think they're the life of the party, they think they're witty, and they show up to the office just a few minutes late, but they value what they bring to the table. But to everybody else, maybe they don't see those traits the exact same way in a positive manner. Maybe perhaps you are a blue in the 4 colors personality assessment, and you are the inclusion person. You are the person that has to make sure that everybody feels included before the project can even get started. But yet not everybody values that either. Maybe perhaps you're a gold and you're really into the details, you are into the analytics, the data, the research, and you have to have all of those spreadsheets done before you can actually get to work. Who am I speaking to right now? And yet other people in the office might see you not in the same positive light, but maybe perhaps a little too rigid. When we think about the idea of being lifelong learners, we have had so many new challenges and issues that we've been facing, particularly in these last couple of years. We've had to learn new ways of working. We've had to learn how to think outside of the box just a little bit. And the interesting part is that human nature, we are so tied to the idea of inertia. Human behavior doesn't want to change. Human behavior wants to sit comfortably back into our routines and do the exact same thing every single day because it's comfortable, right? But being willing to be a lifelong learner is truly one of the key components to getting where we want to go with our lives. If there's something you haven't achieved, if there's something that you really have been wanting that you forgot about, if there's something, that fire in your belly or whatever it is, your art, your skill, your craft, let's do a check-in on that and figure out what do we need to do, where do we need to grow in order to make that happen. Now, getting real with ourselves and taking action and being willing to be a lifelong learner, it's not all there is to it. There's 2 more key components to this. The next component is leadership, and particularly self-leadership. We are obsessed with the idea of leadership. If you were to Google the word leadership right now, right this very second, millennials, Gen Zs, do not cheat, don't pull out your phones. If you were to Google the word leadership right now, right this very second, how many search results do you think Google will return? Millions. 5. 2,500. If you were to Google the word leadership right now, right this very second, Google would return over 6 billion search results on the word leadership. That's more people searching the word leadership than entrepreneurship. That's more people searching the word leadership than how to get into optometry. That's more people searching the word leadership than how was the Republican debate last night. We are obsessed with the idea of leadership. Good leadership, bad leadership, effective leaders that we can be. Well, I was no different. I was that young person that I wanted to really, truly get anything and everything, all the opportunities that came my way to be the best that I could be. I thought for sure that if I was the best leader, and if I studied enough leadership, that I could positively impact all of the teams and associations that I was going to be a part of throughout the course of my life. So, as that millennial with a chip on my shoulder, I signed myself up for a 3-year deep dive course in all key areas of leadership. Over the course of these 3 years, we really intimately got involved in all these different aspects. We talked about situational leadership, we talked about self-leadership, we talked about shared leadership, we talked about servant leadership. We talked about what were the best possible ways to be able to be effective in the world. When we got to the end of the 3 years, our instructor said to us, hey, look, we have one final thing to send your way. We can't teach you leadership in the comfort of your classroom. We literally have to get you out of your element and into the elements to really see how well you can lead. Again, millennial with chip on my shoulder. I was like, I showed my cat at the county fair as a kid. I'm like, I can handle anything you throw my way. To which then the instructor said back to us, guess what? You just signed yourself up for a 2-week excursion of living on a canoe in the Florida Everglades. Do I have any folks here in the room that are from Florida? A couple of y'all? Okay, you know where I'm about to go with this story then. Florida is known for a couple of very specific things. They're known for their humidity, they're known for their mosquitoes, and they are known for the Everglades that have a wide-ranging over hundreds of miles. We had one job and one job only. We had to figure out how to paddle from point A to point B, 110 miles over the course of those 2 weeks. We were given our food, and it was up to us to ration it. We were given a swim test to make sure that we didn't die. We were given one guide just to, come along for the ride. But at the end of the entire thing, nobody cared if we didn't know how to read a chart, a map, and a compass. Even though I grew up in 4-H, I grew up in city 4-H, I'm not certain I had ever pitched a tent in my life at that juncture. So embarking on this journey was a little bit uncomfortable for me. You see on the map there where I show that the very top of the map was where we started, and the very bottom of the map is where we had to go. Every day looked a little bit different, but this was basically the start of where we began the entire journey. Every day also started with good hygiene because, keep your teeth as fresh and clean. Some days looked like this, where it was peaceful and serene. Every day definitely looked like this. Some days were really magical, like this. Some days were a lot of fun, especially when we got to gunnel together and paddle together. Some days were a little scarier than others. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a lot of creepy crawly things that are hanging down from those trees, and they will just fall into your canoe at any given time, and you've got to deal with it. When I tell people that we literally lived on the canoes, they don't believe me. So this is the process of what it looked like at the end of every night. At the end of every night, when we found a safe place that we thought we would be okay to sleep for the evening, we would gunnel all the canoes together, we would anchor down on one side, anchor down on the other, and then we would literally start to pick up and shift all of our gear, because at the bottom of every canoe were 2 wooden boards. We would fold all those wooden boards up to the top, and then we would essentially create a floating platform. We would then move all of the gear back to the ends of the canoes, and then at the end of every night, essentially this is what it looked like and how we slept. The only difference was, you'll see the black on the top and the right sides, that is the water. The only difference in this particular picture is that we don't have our mosquito nets. And if you want to see the pictures of my mosquito bites, that's for another day. Here were 10 of us that got on a plane from Kansas City and flew to the Florida Everglades with one job and one job only, to see how effective we truly could be as leaders, even when we were at our most uncomfortable. Think your city or world, whether you have been in your profession or your career for 30, 40 years, or whether you're just starting out. We have all had uncomfortable moments, right? We've all experienced, well, can't say everyone, but most of us, we've experienced road rage on the way to the office, right? Who is it in this room experienced spilling coffee or food somewhere on themselves at some point, and then you have to then look like that for the rest of the day? How many of us have experienced an interaction with a coworker or somebody professionally that just really derailed everything for the day, right? Yeah, we've all had these uncomfortable moments, but how well can you still lead yourself even when your back is against the wall? Well, for us, we took a drastically wrong turn on the 5th day of that trip, and we didn't know it until 3 hours later. When we finally realized that we took this wrong turn, there were a lot of tears involved. I'm tearing up right now thinking about it. There was a lot of anger and finger pointing. There was a lot of frustration, right? You know those moments that we've experienced in our lives where the work just wasn't getting done, or we didn't get enough clients in our office that day, or that something fell through the cracks, right? When you think about this in terms of life or death, and you're in the middle of the Florida Everglades that you've never been in your entire life, and you didn't know until 3 hours later, how detrimental that could possibly be. But we had no other choice. We had to figure out, how do we continue to pick up the pieces and move on? The only scenario was that we literally had to carry our canoes back the way that we came to get back on track. When I think about the bad moments in our lives today, nothing pales in comparison to that experience. And when I think about the rally mentality and about where we can truly take ourselves in our lives, I think that human beings are capable of so much more than they give themselves credit for. So often in life, we think, oh, we're just going to hit the snooze button a couple more times, and we start to take away from what we're capable of that day. Or sometimes we're too fearful to reach out to that person that we don't know because we don't know what that interaction is going to look like. Or sometimes, perhaps, we just don't think that we're good enough. But I'm here today to tell you that human beings truly are capable and are more resilient than ever. But it's up to each and every single one of us to determine that for ourselves. So the last part of the rally mentality is what I call the yes-no challenge. The yes-no challenge. It's really simple and easy. The yes-no challenge is this: being willing to take on a challenge. And in the famous words of Ted Lasso, he says, taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably not doing it right. Fun fact, if you've seen the movie Ted Lasso, Jason Sudeikis is from Kansas City, and when he wrote the script for that incredible, not play, but series, he wrote it about his high school basketball coach in Kansas City, still teaching basketball to this day. Now, to this day, the high school basketball coach said, whoa, homie, like I did not ask for all of this attention. But I believe this story to be true because this particular individual continues to get praise and accolades for all of the things that he has given back to not only those players, but subsequently the branches and the entire community. So we think about this challenge, the yes-no challenge. If you remember anything from today, please remember this, the yes-no challenge. Is what you're doing right now, right here, getting you closer to where you want to go in life? And if not, is it taking you farther away from where you want to be in life? Think about our activities on a day-to-day basis. If you have a smartphone or an iPhone, you can go to your settings and you can see exactly how much time you spend on YouTube watching cat videos. Somebody in this room besides me, please raise your hand. Or if you think about participating in that group text chain with 497 messages on a daily basis, is that getting you closer to where you want to go in your life, or is it taking you farther away from where you want to be? I'd like to end with this final story for you. I disclosed to my father after college that if I could do anything over again with my education, that I wish that I could be a rapper. To which then my father said, we did not send you to 4 years of Christian private college for you to be an NFL cheerleader and a wannabe rapper. It's fine, Dad, it's fine. I'm on my own now, I'm an adult, I'm no longer living at home, I will make peace with the choices that I've made in life, okay? It's fine. But I have one particular crush outside of Perry. A fellow by the name of Ben Haggerty, who more affectionately goes by his stage name Macklemore. I know, unpopular opinion, but he is my favorite rapper. And here's why, because his story is so different and unique. He grew up on the streets of Seattle with nothing to his name. He dealt with addiction, he dealt with depression, and the one piece to his story that just blows my mind is that he has become one of the biggest rappers and independent artists of all time. He never signed with a music label, and yet he created his entire career solely by himself. When you think about the idea of Macklemore being able to do that coming from nothing, I also think about another fellow by the name of Malcolm Gladwell, who grew up in maybe a little bit more privilege and a little bit more opportunity. He wrote several books, has a PhD, has so much academic work behind his name, and you may know him from writing the book Outliers. And in the book Outliers, he wrote this one principle. He says 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours. If you are willing to put the time into whatever it is that you want, your art, your skill, your craft, whatever it is, if that's your fire in your belly, then you can and you will accomplish anything in your life. Now, level with me for just a second, y'all. Let's be real. I am never going to be Patrick Mahomes in my life. Gosh darn it! And I love being able to throw a football. If you would like the footballs that we left for you on your tables, please, that is my gift to you today. Gosh, I just wish that I could be a quarterback. So unfortunately for Malcolm Gladwell, that may not always be the case, right? But Macklemore believed so much in that same philosophy that he wrote a song about it. The song is called 10,000 Hours, and maybe you've never heard of it because it didn't get a lot of mainstream playing. But what he says is this: the greats weren't great because of birth they get paid. The greats were great because they painted a lot. We've all dealt with adversity in our lives. We've all had uncomfortable situations that we've been faced with. We've all been in that moment where we've wanted to give up, we've wanted to walk away, and we've wanted to just stop, right? But I'm telling you right now that human beings are capable of far more than they give themselves credit for. I believe that to be true. It doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what's in your pockets, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Thanks to my sweet mama, who passed away from cancer in 2004. She put that thought in my head when she enrolled me in City 4-H in 4th grade and gave me the opportunity to believe in something greater than myself. We all have the opportunity to get creative, to think outside of the box, and to truly, truly go after whatever it is that we want with our lives. And I want that so much for all of you in this room today. OWA, thank you so much for letting me be here with you. My name is Shannon McKain.